Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music. As I really like to say, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. And today I am still in Studio One of the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society. I guess we've been in this pandemic thing for about a year, but so far so good, surviving. But I'm really happy, delighted to be able to talk with a great musician and sort of new friend from Asheville, Billy Presnell. Billy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jefferson. How are you doing?
Great. I was so delighted to really meet you, and I remember how that is. We haven't really met in person, but you listened to the podcast with Michael, and
Right.
and reached out, and I thought that was great, and we started talking, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, I heard about your podcast through a friend named Troy Heatley,
Mm-hmm.
who I believe you met at the camps. And he's from this area as well.
Yeah.
And I've played music with Troy for quite some time, and he knows how much of a nerd I am about the music lesson. And he's like, "Man, you got to listen to this interview with Michael. It's crazy." And I listened to it, and he was right. I mean, it's wild, and it was really. I think it was very valuable and informative in ways that, like, kind of mythologizing him as a character from his books. Listening to that interview cleared some things up and really, I don't know, it further made him mythological to me in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. He is so special, so amazing. I mean, you can see how Victor thought of him as, really sort of a mystical teacher in a way.
Oh, certainly, certainly.
Yeah, it's been a real treasure, a real, to just have met him and know him. And, like I say, you can see how Victor really thought he had some amazing aspects.
Yeah, there's certainly a magical quality to his character.
Yeah. So I always like to ask, and I'm also curious because I've seen some of your, playing on online social media and stuff. When did you start playing music? Was music in your family? Did you take lessons? Your parents play? And what was kind of your trajectory coming up with music?
Well, I started when I was really, really young. I was probably 5 years old. Uh, my mom, she prescribed to the theory of the Mozart effect. She wanted me to play classical music and become a brainiac and be very successful in school and just be a better student. And my dad always liked music, and oddly enough, he liked instrumental music with a passion, even though he wasn't a musician himself. So,
Your mom was a musician?
no, she sang, but she wasn't a musician.
Mm-hmm.
They noticed that I was always beating on pots and pans, and I was a very rhythmic little kid, and singing at the top of my lungs, along with the radio. And so they got me piano lessons when I was about 5 years old. And the funny thing is, I totally debunked the Mozart effect theory. It didn't make me better at other things in school. In fact, it distracted me from school because that's all I wanted to do was play. And I played piano. It was my first instrument.
Uh-huh.
Still is an instrument I play quite a lot at home, and obviously not gigging right now, but that was a huge foundation for my musical identity, was playing the piano. And I played piano I took lessons for about 10 years. I started playing guitar when I was about 8. That didn't really catch on until I was a teenager, and it was more rebellious, and that was more enjoyable in that way. But music's always been a part of my life. As far as my conscious awareness, it's been a part of my life. Like, I was learning how to talk still. When I was 5, I was still learning how to communicate, and music became my second language. And I was very introverted, and I was an only child, so I spent a lot of time reading and playing music. And That's
Sounds ideal, honestly.
yeah, yeah. It was pretty great. I mean, my mom probably wishes or would wish that I'd taken school a little more seriously, but I think that all that stuff works out the way it's supposed to. You know?
Yeah. And what kind of music were you playing? 10 years of piano and then
Um, a lot of things. So primarily, my instructor, she was very much into the kind of country world. I mean, she wasn't a country musician, but it was Western North Carolina. It was kind of the culture there, and she taught me boogie woogie piano, like
mm,
Jerry Lee Lewis stride style piano. And she noticed I could pick up with my ear, and she started training my ear. So I don't have perfect pitch, but I do have pretty relative pitch. I'm pretty close um, because of the way she trained me. So it went from boogie woogie stuff to like film scores and more classical things, and then jazz, and then I kind of fell off from that and started playing the music I listened to, like rock and roll stuff, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and
mm-hmm.
things like that, Tom Petty, and playing guitar, playing power chords, playing rock and roll,
Yeah.
really doing it that way, which was good because it connected me emotionally to music more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was kind of my foundation, was just like boogie woogie stride piano. So I love bass because of that.
Mm. Then did you start getting in bands, I guess, or groups or
Yeah, as much as a teenager could, has friends who play, we would all get together and jam and play, and it was like garage band type things. And then I found funk music, and that kind of changed things.
mm.
Um, Playing with people and playing funk. Asheville actually has a pretty vibrant funk music scene,
Huh.
and so that's cool. But I didn't really get to enjoy that until I was much older. But yeah, I played in bands and played solo. A lot of what I do is solo stuff. Kind of harkens back to being a only child playing piano by
Mm-hmm.
myself for years and years. So that was kind of, I've always enjoyed that the most creatively, but I do love accompanying people.
Mm.
That's like a strong suit of mine. And I actually owe a lot of that to Victor as well.
Mm. From accompanying people through from Victor Wooten.
Yeah, well, just his, when I read the music lesson, it changed the way I approached accompanying people. Kind of changed my priorities in making the entire musical piece the goal, as opposed to me playing well
Yeah.
with somebody, which it happens if you care about the quality of the music, that's going to be a byproduct of it. Is you're going to play well.
Yeah. Um, and so now, I mean, not meaning now like in the pandemic, but before the pandemic, and uh, what was sort of your music, not your daily routine, but you were gigging out, you're playing with any groups and
Yeah,
were you,
I was full time musician and teaching at a music shop. I played a lot of bluegrass in a local band called the Big Deal Band. It's a father and son band. Your last name's Deal, and we played a lot together.
mm-hmm.
In fact, I didn't find bluegrass until much later in life. I loved the banjo and things, but I didn't really find bluegrass in that realm until much later. And we played a lot. I mean, we hosted jams. The bluegrass scene is really cool in that way. It's like bluegrass literally is taught under a tree, from generation to generation. It has that feel to
Very
it.
communal too, yeah, family
Very
oriented.
much so. And it's fun. It's like it's not. Some of it gets serious like anything else, but it's more carefree. I think it's because they're not really. It's not a strict lineage. Bluegrass is relatively new. It feels like it's ancient,
Mm-hmm.
but it's relatively new, and you can take risks in bluegrass. And because you're on an instrument that sounds bluegrass by nature, it's not as controversial. It's more accepted.
Mm.
So you can get weird musically and people just be like, wow, that was weird, that was cool, as opposed to playing out of the genre you're playing in. So I really love that about bluegrass, and in particular about um, playing the banjo in an unexpected way.
So the you just mentioned the music lesson had a effect on you. It had an effect on me too. Is that when you started going to Victor Wooten's camps about after you
Yeah.
read that, or how did that
So
transpire?
I met Victor at a concert. The Flecktones. This was 2011.
Mm.
Um, Me and my friends had become obsessed with the Flecktones. Like we thought it was just they were aliens playing musical instruments, and it was freaking us out. I mean, I recall we would listen to the greatest hits CD that they had out, and there was a recording from of them playing Stomping Grounds. And this is a shredding song. I mean, it's crazy. And we would just laugh. We would rewind it and just laugh at how amazing it was. And Rocket Science came out, and that was such an amazing record as well. And then they toured, and I watched them every chance I had when they came anywhere near North Carolina. And I met them a few times, and I finally met Victor in a candid way. They opened up for Bruce Hornsby, and Victor was walking through the crowd. It was dark. It was an outdoor show, and I followed Victor. I saw a silhouette, and I started walking behind him, and he turned around like he knew I was there, which after reading his book
Yes.
made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I've heard about your book. I've read some of it. It's amazing. And he signed a copy of it for me. And he's like, well, if you like this book so much, you need to come to my camps. So this was 2011, I think, is when I started going to those camps. And me and my buddy Elliot went. We brought a few other friends there over the years. And I could really only afford to go to the jam camps. That was really all I could afford to do. And it just changed my life. The first time I went, I came back and I felt like I was floating. I went there, I met a hero of mine who ended up becoming a friend. I felt more than accepted. I learned a lot of difficult lessons about myself, musically and just in general. And to me, going there was so much like living the experiences that I'd read in the book. And I totally idealized it. I definitely did. But it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. So I kept going to every single jam camp. I volunteered at every camp I could. I mean, I've volunteered almost as much as I've actually attended at this point. And I've met a lot of wonderful people, lifelong friends. As far as I know, me, my buddy Elliot, and a guy named Charlie Harris started a band, and we met Charlie at the camps. And I think we're the only band to formulate. That may not be true anymore, but for a while we were the only band to come out of meeting at Wooten Woods.
Nice.
And he lives in Kansas City, so that's kind of a complicated situation getting together and playing. But that's how I knew John from the talk that we had.
Oh yeah, John
previously,
Bauer.
because he lived in Kansas City. But I've just made so many wonderful connections, and getting a bond with somebody that you see as a hero becoming your friend and your mentor is a pretty crazy thing. And realizing he's human. I'll never forget when it clicked, and I heard him messing up and correcting it. I'm like, wow, this dude's a human being too. Like, he's not just some superhero.
He's not an alien.
He's not an alien. But yeah, that camp had a huge impact on my life, and that was about almost 10 years ago. And I was pretty young, and I definitely had an ego musically. And
Yeah, you've been playing all your life. So, I mean, what is it about that? I mean, I've been to the camp, and just more recently, the last couple of years, read the book. I mean, it's just been sort of an incredible experience and ride so far, just sort of based on things that come out of that. But I mean, from your perspective, I mean, what is that? What is that power? What is it? How does it grab people? Why does it do that? What is it? What can it teach you? What's going on there with all that stuff, music?
Well, it's the only place I know of in which, when you arrive, the goal is to play music and learn about music and to connect with people about music. And you end up sometimes not talking about music at all, which is great. I think, and that's the thing that I think is important, is you end up talking about life. That place, he calls it a music and nature reserve. And nature doesn't just mean tracking. It doesn't just mean camping. Nature is reality. We are
Mm-hmm.
always in nature. And I think that that's the goal. When you get there, is those boundaries kind of disappear. And it's like, well, what makes good music good isn't necessarily good musicianship, but it's being a good person. And being a good person will lead to good musicianship if you practice at it and you're genuine and authentic with yourself. And that place has a really profound impact on people who are open to it, and they can see that. And it really lifts a veil on a lot of those things that seemed mystical and unattainable, and just makes it more realistic and attainable. I mean, it's really that place that's what it's all about, and it connects people. It's such a positive place, and you can learn difficult things. I mean, I've been on stage with Vic, and he has cut me down in front of the whole room. I mean, in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah.
Corrected some things, and I never made that mistake again. You know, and it's been very formative. That place is it will change your life in a positive way.
Yes.
And some people may not be open to it though. I think it's rare, but I've seen it. Some people aren't willing to listen. You know.
And so, what has been the impact, outside of your life from, music, the connections through Wooten Woods, people you played with, you know, be, how is that? Has it sort of emanated? Does it almost emanate out from you? I mean, you live in Asheville, which has got all these fabulous musicians. Do you see a difference there when you came back, or?
Yeah, I think it was more that people saw a difference within me.
Mm.
I often will be told that I look recharged. I look and feel like I'm just living at a higher level, like consciously or spiritually. Um, it has saved me in this area because of the level of musicianship here is so high, and getting gigs that you can't really prepare for, the things that I've learned from Vic, and honestly, the knowledge of being accepted by people like him. I'm not very concerned about being accepted anymore. It's like
Mm.
once you meet your hero and like you bond with him and he becomes your friend and he compliments you and gives you constructive criticism, you learn that it's not really about impressing people. It's like, hey man, I've already been there, I've done that. I've played with my heroes. I've played with people that, I never dreamed of being able to play with. So it becomes more about the music as opposed to the function of playing it or being in front of people playing it. It's about serving the music. That's the thing that I learned the most, is about serving the music
Serving the
itself,
music. Yeah.
not me. If I serve the music, then I will be great. I will benefit from that. But if I'm like, look at what I can do, it's going to be dreadful.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, one, also one thing that we just sort of we were working together on in a way is just talking about this Nada Brahma book that Michael had mentioned in the podcast, Nada Brahma, The World is Sound. And from that, it also became obvious to me that, I mean, you're very well read in a lot of areas and very kind of deep dude. So, how is your reading and your, the academic approach to music and your thinking about music and life? Um, how would you describe that, or what it's done for you, or how you view it? Because you obviously take seriously your your reading and about music, but other things that inform your life.
Well, I guess it's really seeing how it's all a part of the same thing. Um, I feel like one of the problems with teaching people music or teaching kids music in school is that we treat it like it's arithmetic or like it's grammar or like it's visual art or something very specific, when it actually is a microcosm of all those things, of all the things that school's about, all the things that life is about. And what drew me to the Nada Brahma thing was it's an idea that I'd had prior to hearing that interview about the relationship between consciousness and music and how it becomes this like ethereal thing. You feel like you're connected to something larger than the idea you had of yourself. And there are all these elements that there's just too much symmetry within music that it can't be by accident. And it could be that we are looking for it and we perceive it through a mind that receives information that way. But even that's meaningful to me. So to think about music and its connection to consciousness and how there really isn't a separation from it. Uh, and it goes on to you know how we perform daily, how we listen, all these things that we do that are musical, the way that we talk. I mean, one of the things that I do with my students is I refuse to teach them scales at first. I'm not interested in teaching you scales. I wouldn't, if I had a kid, I wouldn't teach them the alphabet first. I mean, I just wouldn't do it. It doesn't do the kid any good. Like, talk to me, say something funny, maybe say a bad word, learn what bad words are. That's important. And for that to be so apparent to me with music in a linguistic way, and it being a language that can be understood at a level that requires subtlety and sincerity, but you don't have to have a black or white definition behind the music. It can mean all sorts of things. And it being like that with language, and the way that I view reality is that we're limited in our consciousness to our linguistic programming, the way that we have an inner dialogue, the way that we communicate and express ourselves. So music can be much the same thing, except it's way more elegant. There's way more information that you can get from a feeling, a nuance of a feeling, than a really long, drawn out paraphrasing, like what I'm doing now, right? So to me, that I see the interconnectivity and the interdependence of all these things with music and with spirituality and with science, with math, with all of these things. So it makes sense that I've been obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with metaphysical stuff and reading about different forms of spirituality, because music encompasses all of that, I think. And that's another thing about Wooten Woods is you can have these conversations with people there and really go deep. You can really break open that wormhole there.
Yeah, so you have a real curiosity about how it all fits together.
Yeah, the condition that we're in.
Yeah, yeah, me too. When we were talking about it, I've heard it expressed sort of like language can be limiting. A dog can't really speak, but a dog can, smell and hear things that it's not limited in how it defines it almost. It has an experience or an awareness, so they can almost understand more than if you only have this filter of words that we do
Yeah,
when we think.
yeah. I think that's a tool that can get in the way when you have the ability to analyze things and reduce things to numbers and words. you tend to suck the marrow out of it. Like you take the magic out of it. And it's like you're right, dogs can't communicate, but you know when they're upset and you know when they have to go outside, you know. And that's what's important is you understand them. Um, you know, with the way that we work, we're bound to limitations within our language, and every language has that. Um, some languages can kind of compound words in a really cool way, like German can. I don't know about any German at all, but I'm I'm aware that they have a really awesome compounding structure in their words, and any Asian language, the the subtleties of the tone is important in how the word is defined, as opposed to English, which is kind of, it's kind of a boring language compared to those. I mean,
Yeah.
I say that because I speak it, I suppose, but
Yeah. Just
it's not
information
very
sharing.
nuanced. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's deeper than that. And if you let that get in the way, then it limits your experience. But if if you're aware that it's there and it's an abstraction, like if you go back to an awareness of the abstraction itself, it can be a really awesome tool. It can help you grow. Like technology is the same way. If you're just aware of what it really is and don't let it consume you, you can grow and experience, and I guess experience is the point of it all, really.
Yeah. So are there things that you feel that you know s- come from music, you've learned from music, or the example of Wooten Woods that we can take from to try to, I don't know, sounds trite, make a better society, make a better
Mm.
world. How does that play out? Do you think about that ever?
I do think about that, and I think that the best thing to take from it is to realize that what it takes to be a good musician are the same qualities that it takes to be a good person.
Mm.
And pretty much within any art form that you delve into, I love Victor. I don't know if he does it anymore, but he used to go to these clinics, and I would be volunteering, so I'd be with him, and he would ask the crowd to describe music, and they would use words like love, happiness, groove, dancing, you
Hmm.
know. And they never once said scales or modes or time signatures, and I think the problem is when we get into music and we get to a certain level, we think that's the code. That's the way to get good. And I mean, I know plenty about music theory, and I apply it sometimes, but when I'm really playing music just to play music, I'm not concerned with that. And I think that could be used as a metaphor for how to be a better person. Like, don't be concerned with the rules or the ideologies that you choose to live by. You know, embody the good qualities. You know, listening, allowing others to really express themselves, encourage them to express themselves. You know, and just put that positive energy out there. And whether it's manifesting it or not, I mean, uh, there's a quote. I'll be misquoting it, but an author named Robert Anton Wilson. He's like a pessimist never does anything.
Hmm.
Optimists are the ones who do things, who build things, who create.
Right.
Pessimists never really do anything. And I spent a lot of my life as a pessimist. I mean, I was
Hmm.
very, very pessimistic. And just being a good person and letting the qualities that you get out of music, teach you to be better. I would tell people just listen to Stevie Wonder and be more like what Stevie does.
Hmm.
And the world would be much better, you know.
Yeah, it certainly can change your feeling when you get in the car and turn on the radio, or if you put on some music, if you had a hard day at work or whatever. It
Yeah.
and people do this kind of thing all the time. And it sort of strikes me that, well, I I wrote a lot about peace, and I always thought, we could have peace on the planet. Of course, Victor Wood says there is, and he said to me, there is peace on the planet.
Mm.
And I realized that, but then there's also some crazy stuff that goes on, and lack of respect and all these things. But when I tell people, yeah, we're trying to just got to be a way to bring peace to the planet, and they'd say, well, good luck with that. But if you say, well, we're really just trying to do what we can to help bring peace through music, they go,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, that's a path. And when I first realized that, and that was after reading Victor's book, I thought, this is the tangible way to go for me, is to explore music and learn as much as I can and all that. And, that's the reason for just these conversations is, there's so many people out there like yourself who have, great ideas about things and have learned so much from music and can, change lives really in the things that you do and play and the music that you bring and the way you approach life.
Yeah, I mean, I owe that to music, I think, and I think a lot of people do. I think music changed my life, and it's like, it's cool that you want to bring peace through music, and that gets people's attention all of a sudden. I think that says something that people don't really understand music, and I don't even mean musicians. I mean everybody. It's like, why do we like it? And how much more common should it be in our lives? I think that music, it shouldn't just be a consumable thing. It should be a thing that's ever present. And if you can listen for it, it's everywhere all the time. And when you do play music, if you are fortunate enough to be able to do that, and you put the intent of peace in your music, it can affect people. That may be my answer to your question about affecting the world at large with music. It would be to play music with the intent of healing and providing positivity and peace. And that has to happen on a small level. And I mean, I heard Michael say that in your podcast, and that changed my life there. And that was so recent for me. I haven't had very many gigs, but the gigs that I have had and the rehearsals that I've had, I have deliberately slowed myself down and put that intent at the front of my mind. Even before I worry about a key signature, which, not that I really do worry about that, but if I'm thinking about it, that's what comes first. And it's absolutely amazing the effect it has on people. And I don't say a word about it. I don't say anything. I don't get preachy about it. I won't say a word that could bring that topic up. I just have that in my mind when I play. And it's insane. I mean, people in this area love music. It's a huge part of the culture here, and they have always been great listeners. But when I did that, it like turned the listening on HD. I mean, it was crazy. People clapping for things that normally they don't clap for. Like I played at a jam on Tuesday night, which was great to be able to jam with live people.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a solo that was very simple, but man, I put that in there. I was just thinking about that, like, just trying to give these people something positive. And I got a huge applause from it. And I didn't really do anything special at all. The band was killing it. It was like one of those examples where the guitar does the same thing and the band changes and people clap for the guitar player.
Yeah.
It was one of those instances, but that intent really affected those people. And it felt good to provide that. I mean, and that's the fortunate thing is, like, it's not like it takes anything away from you to change your view of that. It really feels great to play music with peaceful intent.
Yeah, I was so taken by that line that Michael has in the book, in the music lesson book. Intention is the key to everything. And I really, it's so simple, but, and then Vic says, the only things we don't succeed at are the things when we stop trying. And the combination of that, and I think the way that you just expressed it is really, really good too. Just playing music with intent, that can change the world. Does change the world.
It does. And I mean, otherwise we do it with the intent of, oh, look at what I can do. Look how good I sound. That's the thing. Like I work so hard, and I hear that in other people's playing. And they're great players, but it's like I hear the inward focus, and that's fine. They work hard. They should be, appreciated for how good they are. But it ain't going to reach nobody. If
Yeah.
you play selflessly, it really reaches people, and it just makes it more fun. I mean, that's the whole point for me. It's fun. Like when I play guitar or play piano, I'm smiling.
Yeah.
At least on the inside, I am. I mean, I don't know why else we'd do it. I don't work the guitar.
Yeah.
I
So
play it.
we're hopefully we're getting out of this pandemic fairly soon.
Mm.
If people listen to this years from now, they will know the history of what happened. But for us right here,
Yeah.
are there things that you think will or may change or might be able to change involving, music and people and community, society, and how we approach things, lessons from the pandemic, as it were?
I think so. I think that the big ones would be initially afterward. If there could be a way to kind of gauge that. I mean, it depends on how things change. If it's super gradually, it's that's probably harder to quantify. It's if it happens more abruptly, then I think people will, at least at first, they will appreciate things they once took for granted. I mean, that's such a cliche, but you really don't know what you have until it's taken away from you.
Right.
And for me, and for like especially a city like Asheville, where live music is a huge part of the soul of the city, and it seems grayer because there isn't much live music here. And I think that people will just have such a desire to be a part of that, to go to those events and really soak it in, really be a part of it and experience it on that level. Hopefully people are tired of live streams and tired of listening to music through their headphones. I mean, I was prior to the pandemic. I mean, and I was playing full time. I couldn't get enough of live music. I mean, to me, that is the way to experience music, is through a live setting. And I'm fortunate to live here where, hopefully after COVID, but definitely prior to COVID, every night of the week you could go find amazing music. I mean, world-class music anywhere of just about any style. And a lot of people don't know that. I mean, I know people in my hometown who've never seen live music before.
Wow.
And that's bizarre to me. And it's a thing I take for granted because I got to do it so much and to be a part of it so often. And it's like, the thing that I tell my students, especially late in life musicians who don't think they can do it really. They're afraid they can't play music. And I'm like, hey man, you can. You may not be great at it, but you can do it. I mean, you get better by working at it. It's not a matter of if you have it or not. Like in most cultures, everyone's musical to a degree. I mean, you don't find a primitive culture where there's one guy who can jam. There might be one guy who's really amazing, who's like a virtuoso, who may be the manifestation of music in that area. And I think that happens. I think there are people that it's like music rearing its head.
Yeah.
It just emanates through people. I think Michael Hedges was an example of that. I think Stevie Wonder is an example of that.
Yeah.
I always bring up Stevie Wonder, and it may be because my foundation in music is keyboards. And a lot of my favorite musicians are piano players. Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, Stevie, Herbie. I love piano. George Winston. But when you listen to the way that he plays music, he's not just doing it because he has a compulsion to do it. It's like it's his existence. It's like the Songs in the Key of Life record, I think, is a great example of him taking life and putting it on record, like as an album.
Mm.
And it's really powerful. I mean, I listen to that album all the way through quite a lot these days. I have time to do it. I've got it on vinyl. I'm just about worn it out. Um, but it's so good. You know, it's and he really just it's like a microcosm of life on vinyl. And I think that he is music manifested through a human being. Like he is like the spirit of music. You know, there are people who have that. You know, I think Victor is one of those people too. And I think Victor's specialty is relating to people
Mm-hmm.
and being like, hey, like this isn't some special thing that you can't do. It's special, but you can do it. You know, anyone can do it.
And I guess a Stevie Wonder is sort of, the culmination, a pinnacle or a vortex or something.
Yeah.
But we're all made out of the same stuff and vibrations, and that can provide good examples for us of what we can do. I mean, I just started playing guitar really like maybe 6 years ago, but
Oh wow.
wow, it's so great. It's my retirement plan.
There you go. And if it makes you happy, that's the thing, you know. Playing guitar and it's playing, man. You know, it ain't working the guitar, it's playing the guitar.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm learning, but you know, it's coming along. But so, you know, for any of your other students, just think if by the time you're, 90 years old, you've been playing for 30 years.
Yeah. Well, it's never too late to start playing an instrument. I mean, it's obviously going to be more difficult if you wait to do it. I mean, if you put things off and don't do it, it's going to make things difficult. And muscle memory is really hard to gain after a certain age. And it's a young age. It's like 23, I think, is when your ability
no wonder.
kind of... It's tough. I mean, like for me, I'm 29. And trying to learn new things, I can tell a difference now from when I was younger. Like I used to just play all the instruments I could. I mean, I have a wide variety. I've got like a cello, violin, all these things. And I could just jump on them and fake it. At least that's what I would tell myself. You know, it's just faking it. And now when I do that with other instruments, I'm like, oh man, I'm not as quick as I used to be. Like I used to be able to just snap my fingers and I could groove on something. And sometimes now it's a little bit weird.
Wow.
You know?
Well, I'm certainly going to stick at it. So I tell you, maybe we'll make a plan. We'll have to get together. I'll come down to Asheville. We'll do some stuff, explore a little bit. But you know, I think we're both sort of focusing on the same thing. You know, music is an amazing gift. It's us, and we can really make things better, nurture people, heal people, bring happiness if we really try to focus on it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that with the right intention, you can bring a lot of happiness and peace to somebody with it. You know, you can't vanquish the bad stuff. I mean, you can only make the good stuff better. You know,
and that seems like it's worth doing.
It is. I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right. So, Billy, so great talking with you today. Thanks for sharing some of your young wisdom. I appreciate knowing you, and looking forward to actually meeting you and hanging out at Wooten Woods.
Yeah, as do I. I cannot wait for Wooten Woods to be open again.
Yeah. All right. So, everybody, Billy Presnell, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Jefferson.
You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.